Landowner. Landowner. You know, actually this whole idea, the 6 hats of the farmer, started out with landowner. Started out when a few years ago, ethanol was really taking off, and a lot of people asked what the long-term impact of ethanol on crop prices and on farm profitability was going to be. Thinking about it, came to the realization, none. I mean, we can see ethanol push corn to $4 a bushel. It doesn't make farms any more profitable. Not at all. Why? Let's think about this in terms of land. Okay? Take an acre of land. And let's say the government comes out and say it's $100 an acre is cash rent on it. Let's just pick a number that's nice and easy to work with. Government comes out, let's say they're going to give a $10 direct payment to the one who farms that land. To the one who farms, to the farmer, $10 direct payment. What are they going to be willing? What are farmers going to be willing then to pay in rent? $110. Some of them $115, but that's different. $110, right? All those payments, they go into rent. And that rent gets capitalized into land values. Okay, gets capitalized into land values. And so ultimately, whatever we're talking about, whether it's the ethanol boom or it's $4 corn or $5 corn, it doesn't make farmers any better off. It all gets bid into land prices. For example, there is research, a lot of academic research, that shows direct payments, 98% of direct payments go to the landowner. Doesn't matter who the check gets written to, because it gets bid into the value of the land. LDPs, as I recall, something like 65 to 70% gets bid into the value of the land. Okay? And we all know this. Do you have to be a landowner? Do you have to be a landowner to be a farmer? No. You don't have to be a landowner to be a farmer. Okay? Do you have to be a farmer to be a landowner? Can you own land, farmland, without being a farmer? Sure. Sure you can. Okay? So these aren't the same. This is where this all started. This is separate business. We need to think about this as a separate business. Okay? Now, I think this is a very important one, especially right now, especially in 2011. Because in case you hadn't heard, land prices are really high. There's a lot of talk about it. Okay? We hear a lot of talk about it. And it seems like almost every week, either in the paper, even the Wall Street Journal, front page of the Wall Street Journal had an article about land prices, farmland prices. Okay, everywhere you turn, constantly, guys coming up to me saying, "Oh, did you hear? I went from $5,000 an acre, pretty marginal ground, $5,000 an acre, $6,000 from great ground, $7,000 an acre." Constantly, okay? And a lot of people, why? We're stirring up kind of some echoes of the 80s. So I understand why people are concerned. So it's really important why we understand, why we think real clearly about land ownership and how it relates to farming. Okay? Now the first and most important question when it comes to land ownership or buying land is, are you earning an adequate return? If you own land, imagine if you took that land and you created a separate company. You created a separate company that owned your land. And then you have your farming company, and you have your land holding. Now, I'm not at all advocating you do this, by the way. Let me be clear. This is not meant to be a stimulus package for accountants here. But I want you to think about this. Imagine if you had a separate company that owned all your land, and then a company that farmed it. And the farming company had to pay rent to the land holding company. And was paying prevailing cash rent. Okay? If you do that, or if you're paying the returns that you're earning in your farming company to your land company, are you earning enough on that land, on the investment that you put into that land? That's a key point. That's a key thing to think about. Am I earning an adequate return? Now, right after people come up and tell me how much land just went for at a local auction, the next question is, almost inevitably, should I have bought that piece of land at that price? Or should I be buying more land? I think this is the single most asked question I get from farmers. Should I be buying more land? And it's a good question. It's an important question. And I'll be honest with you. I'm friendly towards buying land as a general principle. I'm friendly towards buying land. Why? There's a real fundamental, another fundamental point of economics. The owner of the scarcest resource earns the wealth. The owner of the scarcest resource earns all the wealth. In agriculture, what's the scarcest resource? Okay, stop and think about this for a second. Stop and think about this for a second. At Ohio State University, we've got students lining up to become farmers. We got tons of guys. Do you guys know young people who want to become farmers? Yeah. Do a lot of them become farmers? What's the single biggest problem with becoming a farmer? It's the single biggest problem with becoming a farmer. It's buying land. Right, it's getting your land, it's getting started with your land. Okay? No, it's not actually borrowing money. In this country, we have perfected the art of borrowing money. Like nobody in history has ever perfected it. We're not so good at paying it back, but we know how to borrow it. It's getting land. Okay? Everything gets bid into land values. Okay? So the owner of that land is the one who ends up accruing all the wealth. The owner of that land is the one who ends up accruing all the wealth because it gets bid in there. In agriculture, the scarcest resource is land. Okay? So when we talk about ethanol policy doesn't do anything for farmers. It truly doesn't. But it helps landowners. Now, if a farmer is also a landowner, great, it helps them. But it doesn't help them because they're a farmer. It helps them because they're a landowner. And this is true of all farm policy. Whether DPs, whether LDPs, whether acre. Now, it's going to have different effects, not necessarily going to get bid in one for one. But ultimately, this all goes into land. And all the wealth in agriculture gets bid into the value of land. So long term, yeah, I'm a big believer in farmland. I'm a big believer in farmland as an investment.